Episode 1 A Live Free or Die. Season 5 begins with a dramatic shift in tone as Walt, having killed Gus Fring, now steps fully into the shoes of a criminal mastermind. The episode opens with a flash-forward, showing Walt with a new identity, a broken demeanor, and a mysterious large gun, hinting at the immense consequences yet to come. Back in the present, Walt, Jesse, and a traumatized Saul scramble to deal with the evidence left behind at Gusa's destroyed lab and particularly the incriminating laptops stored inside a highly secure DEA evidence room. Walter's strategic mind takes over as he enlists Micaiah, grieving Gusa's death and furious with Walter, to join a daring mission to disable the laptop using an electromagnet. The sequence becomes a metaphor for Walter's rising recklessness. Even when the plan works, Walter's hunger for victory leads him to declare, we just getting started? Meanwhile, Skylar grows terrified of the monster Walt is becoming, while Hank unknowingly moves closer to uncovering the truth. The episode sets the stage for Walter's descent into absolute tyranny, revealing a man who believes he has conquered the criminal world and can now operate without limits. Episode 2 A Madrigala. This episode expands the scope of the Breaking Bad universe by exploring the multinational corporation Madrigal Electromotive, which secretly supported Gusa's meth empire. Executives panic as law enforcement closes in, illustrating the vast scale of the criminal infrastructure Walt has destroyed. Mike becomes the emotional center of the episode as he is interrogated by the DEA and must decide whether to align with Walt and Jesse or cut ties forever. His moral code and loyalty to Gusa's former employees become critical themes, as he refuses to let the innocent families of imprisoned cartel comrades suffer financially. Walt, sensing opportunity, manipulates Jesse with carefully crafted lies while pushing for a new partnership with Mike. His charm becomes a weapon as subtle, poisonous, and increasingly effective. The episode emphasizes Walter's rise as a manipulative kingpin, the deepening international implications of the meth trade, and the moral complications for characters like Mike who must choose between survival and loyalty. Episode 3 A Hazard Pay. Walt, Jesse, and Mike begin constructing a new meth lab inside a series of mobile fumigation homes, a clever and visually striking setup that shows Walter's evolution from desperate amateur to innovative criminal entrepreneur. Mike handles distribution and protects Gusa's former employees by allocating hazard pay, a decision that frustrates Walt, who resents sharing profits and believes he deserves more. This conflict becomes the emotional heartbeat of the episode, illustrating Walter's growing greed and belief that he is the center of the operation. Meanwhile, Walt subtly manipulates Jesse regarding his breakup with Andrea, strengthening Walter's control over him. Back at home, Walt attempts to reassert dominance by moving back into the house and intimidating Skylar, whose fear and depression intensify. The episode's thematic focus is on power and control. Walt wants to control the business, Jesse, Mike, and even his own family, foreshadowing his future downfall. Episode 4 A E14. This episode is a slow and chilling showcase of Walter White's transformation into a tyrant. Walt celebrates his 51st birthday, marking a full year since his cancer diagnosis, and symbolizing his rebirth as Heisenberg. He buys Walt Jr. a flashy sports car, disregarding Skylar's objections and humiliating her in front of their children. Skylar, trapped in a marriage with a man she no longer recognizes, finally reaches her breaking point. She reveals her fear directly, admitting that her only strategy is to wait for the cancer to come back, one of the darkest lines in the series. Meanwhile, Lydia attempts to manipulate Mike in the operation by planting false evidence of DEA tracking devices, revealing her paranoia and desperation. The episode blends domestic horror with criminal tension, illustrating how the empire Walt sought to build is poisoning every aspect of his life. His need for dominance has turned his home into another battlefield. Episode 5, A Dead Freda, stands as one of the most thrilling and morally disturbing episodes of the entire series. Walt, Jesse, and Mike attempt to secure a supply of methylamine by hijacking a freight train in the middle of the desert. Heist meticulously planned and executed with precision. Todd, a seemingly polite and obedient worker from the fumigation team, joins them, his presence foreshadowing danger. The heist unfolds like a cinematic masterpiece as the crew hides the operation from a passing motorist and races against time to drain the train's tank without detection. The plan succeeds, but the victory is destroyed in seconds when a young boy on a dirt bike stumbles onto the scene. After a moment of stunned silence, Todd casually shoots and kills the child, shocking Walt and Jesse and instantly revealing Todd's total lack of moral boundaries. The episode's climax marks a turning point that shatters any illusion that Walt's empire can exist without innocent casualties. It is the moment the show announces that darkness will now dominate the narrative. Episode 6, A Bayuda. In the aftermath of the Boya's murder, tension fractures the partnership between Walt, Jesse, and Mike. Jesse is devastated, emotionally broken by the death, and furious at Todd's casual cruelty. Mike wants out of the business entirely and plans to sell his share of the methylamine to a rival group. Walt refuses, revealing how deeply Pridea not necessitia is driving his decisions. He admits that he continues cooking not for money or survival, but because he feels alive and powerful when he does it. This confession marks one of his most significant character revelations. Meanwhile, Hank and the DEA close in on Mike, intensifying the external pressure. Walt manipulates Jesse again, exploiting his vulnerability and convincing him to stay, despite his moral objections. The episode reflects themes of greed, ambition, and psychological corruption, as Walt becomes increasingly isolated by his own delusions. Episode 7, A Say My Name. Walt reaches peak arrogance in this episode, confronting rival meth dealers with his most iconic line, "Say my name." His ego is now driving the entire enterprise, and he behaves like a ruthless kingpin demanding recognition. Mike's relationship with Walt deteriorates to the breaking point, and Mike decides to leave the business permanently, planning an escape for himself and his granddaughter. However, Walt's pride and paranoia erupt in a confrontation, where Walt impulsively shoots Mike during an argument, killing one of the series' most morally grounded characters. The tragedy is compounded by Walt's realization that Mike's death was unnecessary. He could have simply asked Lydia for the information he wanted. Meanwhile, Jesse breaks away emotionally, unable to continue under Walt's control. This episode marks the moment that Walt's empire begins to rot from the inside, poisoned by his ego and the loss of the partnership that once grounded him. Episode 8, A Gliding Over Allah. This mid-season finale shows Walt at the height of his empire. He partners with Lydia to expand distribution internationally, and his meth spreads across multiple countries. In one of the show's most chilling sequences, Walt arranges for the simultaneous murder of multiple imprisoned associates using a coordinated prison massacre orchestrated by white supremacist gangs. The brutality demonstrates Walt's complete moral decay and his willingness to eliminate any threat with absolute efficiency. Skylar, overwhelmed by the vast piles of cash Walt is generating, breaks down emotionally, revealing she fears the money can never be a laundered awaya fast enough. Walt eventually announces he is quitting the meth business and appears to return to a quiet family life. But the final scene delivers one of television's most iconic twists. Hank sits on Walta's toilet, picks up a book from Gale, and suddenly realizes with Aurora that his brother-in-law is Heisenberg. The empire Walt built is now on the edge of exposure. Part B. Episodes 9A-16. The final half of the season of Heisenberg. Episode 9A Blood Money. The second half of the season resumes with high tension, as Hank reels from discovering Walta's secret and begins his private investigation. His shock turns into fury and obsession as he connects years of clues he previously ignored. Meanwhile, Walt struggles to balance his desire for a quiet retirement with the knowledge that enemies still surround him. Jesse, racked with guilt over the past, becomes emotionally numb and begins trying to give away his money as a form of desperate repentance. In the episode's highlight scene, Hank confronts Walt in his garage, accusing him directly. Walt denies nothing, but calmly warns Hank to tread lightly, delivering one of the coldest lines of the series. The episode marks the beginning of a devastating family war. Episode 10A Buried. Hank and Marie grapple with their devastating realization, while Walt races to hide his remaining fortune. He recruits Saul's men to bury his barrels of cash deep in the desert, creating a symbolic burial site for his entire empire. Skylar surprises the audience by choosing to support Walt, believing that protecting their family requires standing with him rather than Hank. Jesse is arrested for dumping money into strangers' yards, unable to live with the burden of his crimes. The episode deepens the theme of family loyalty, twisted by crime, with every character trapped in lies,